Here we have AP calculus AB problem. Okay, let's go to the question. Find the fourth derivative of the function y equals to 2 times x to the sixth power, negative 3 times x to the fourth power, positive 3x square. Okay, so here we have a function that is y is a function of the variable x, and we have to find fourth derivative. So we have to assume all the 4 times we have to find derivative of this function with respect to x, because y is a function of x. Okay, first let me write the given function as it is, that is y equals to 2 times x to the sixth power, negative 3 times x to the fourth power, positive 3 times x to the second power. Okay, now let's do the first derivative. That is, we have to find derivative on both sides with respect to x. When I find derivative of this y with respect to x, I'm getting dy over dx. Okay, here let's find derivative of the first term out here. When I consider the first term 2 times x to the sixth power, so there is a constant 2 over here multiplied by the variable part. When I find derivative, if there is a constant multiplied by the variable, I have to keep the constant as it is, and I have to find the derivative of the variable alone. So when I find the derivative of this x to the sixth power, I can use the power rule. So power rule means first I have to bring this exponent in front of the variable and subtract 1 from the exponent. So then I'm getting 6 times x to the fifth power. So the same rule, I can keep this constant as it is. When I find the derivative for this x to the fourth power, I can use a power rule. That is, let me bring the exponent 4 in front of the variable and subtract 1 from the exponent. So positive, now the same. So we can keep this constant 3 as it is. So when I find the derivative of x square, I have to bring the exponent 2 in front of the variable and subtract 1 from the exponent. If I subtract 1 from the exponent, it is just 1. Okay, now let's simplify the stuff over here. Dy over dx equals to 2 times 6 is 12 x to the fifth power, negative 3 times 4 is 12 x to the third power, positive 3 times 2 is 6, and x to the first power. X to the first power, we can just write x. Okay, now I got the first derivative. Now let me do the second derivative. So when I do second derivative of this dy over dx, I am writing d square y over dx square. So here, why do I write square for d numerator and square for x in denominator? So the square we have for d numerator represents the second derivative, and the square we have for x in denominator represents both the times we do derivative with respect to the same variable x. Okay, now let's find the derivative of the first term. So the same rule, the constant 12 is multiplied by the variable. So we can keep the constant as it is. When I find the derivative of this one, I can use a power rule, that is 5 times x to the fourth power, negative, again I can keep the constant 12 as it is. When I find the derivative of this x cube, it will become 3x square, positive. When I find the derivative of the 6x, I have to keep the 6 as it is. So the derivative of x with respect to x is just 1. Okay, now let's simplify the stuff over here. Then we get d square y over dx square equals to 12 times 5 is 60 x to the fourth power, negative 12 times 3 is 36 x square, positive 6 times 1 is 6. Okay, now I have simplified the second derivative. Now I have to do the third derivative. When I do the third derivative, I have to take a cube for the d numerator and cube for the x in denominator. So that is d cube y over dx cube. So the cube we have for d represents the third derivative. The cube we have for x represents all the 3 times we do derivative with respect to the same variable x. Okay, so when I find derivative of this 60 times x to the fourth power, I have to keep the constant 60 as it is. So the derivative of this x to the fourth power is 4 times x to the third power, negative. I can keep this 36 as it is, and I find derivative of this x square, it will become 2x, positive. The derivative of the constant 6 is 0. So let's do some simplification over here. D cube y over dx cube equals to, when I multiply 60 and 40, I'm getting 240 x to the third power, negative. When I multiply this 36 times 2x, it will become 72x. Okay, now let's do the final step. That is, I have to find the fourth derivative. So I have to take power 4 for d numerator. In denominator, I have to take power 4 for x, because all the 4 times we do derivative with respect to x. Okay, so we can keep the constant 240 as it is. And when I find the derivative of this one, I can use a power rule. That is 3 times x to the second power, negative 72 times the derivative of x is just 1. Let's do some simplification. So d to the fourth power y over dx to the fourth power equals to, when I multiply this 240 and 3, I'm getting 720 x square, negative 72. So now I got the fourth derivative of the given function, that is equal to 720 times x square, negative 72.